Hello? A while back, I was looking through my old iMovies, and I came across this video that I made in my 3rd grade presentation. And this is what I saw.
Reduce the amount of meat we eat. In the following paragraphs, I will explain my reasons why for this opinion. Eating less meat is important because a lot of cows can cause greenhouse gases. Why? Because cows fart.
Okay, let's pause right there. Now, despite my very high-pitched voice and my big fat typo right in the middle of the screen, I realized while watching this video that I actually had a point. At that time, I had been an avid meat eater, eating meat during lunch and dinner, and I never thought too much about it. But now that I know more deeply about this issue, I've started doing meatless Mondays, and on other days, I try to eat as little meat as possible, for reasons we'll later explain.
No way, because the same thing happened to me. I mean, what are the odds of that? Unfortunately though, I only recognized this issue very recently when I came across a documentary called Cowspiracy, and it changed my life. Or at least 2 months of it. That's right, I have stopped eating meat for 2 months already, or to be exact, 82 days. And over the course of these 2 months, I've been living on a pescatarian diet, which means vegetarian but with the addition of seafood. At least I still gotta eat sushi.
So, why did me and Wendi change our diets so much, despite eating meat so frequently before? Well, for one thing, it's like how I said in my 3rd grade presentation, cows fart. And it's not just that. The entire animal agriculture industry alone produces more greenhouse gas emissions than the exhaust of all trains, cars, trucks, planes, boats combined.
But Alicia, why in your video did you only mention cow's fart?
Well, that's because one cow farts and burps a lot more than all other animals. For instance, a cow can produce 154 to 264 pounds of methane gas per year. And along with that, cows excrete a lot of waste. And this waste indirectly causes the release of nitrous oxide, which can actually warm the atmosphere 300 times more than carbon dioxide. With so much greenhouse gases released into the atmosphere and our changing climate, this is simply unsustainable.
And it's not just because they're gassy though, they also take up way too much space. Rainforest, known as the Earth's biological treasure, is being cut down at a rate of 1.5 acres per second. This means that in this very second of you listening to me spit out boring statistics about cows, 1.67 football fields of rainforest are being destroyed. And because of this, 150 species go extinct every single day. In total, 1/3 of the land on Earth is dedicated to either raising livestock or growing the crops to feed them. So if the current production rate continues, we'll simply run out of land.
But don't we need to clear this land so that we can get enough food for us to eat and get enough energy?
Well, yes, but it is unsustainable. Let me explain to you using the energy conversion pyramid. At the bottom of the food chain, we have all these plants generating energy from the sun. And when animals eat these plants, they only get 10% of the energy from the plants. And then when we eat these animals, we only get 1% of the energy from the original plant. And sometimes we only get 0.1%. So as you can see, eating meat is way more inefficient and unsustainable than just eating vegetables or grains themselves. I mean, every day we hear all these news about people dying of starvation, but if we only lived on a plant-based diet, we'd be able to feed at least 4 more billion people.
And it's not just about saving more lives, it's also about saving water. Because think about it, to create meat, you gotta raise an animal to do so. But in order to raise an animal in a healthy way, you gotta give it food, you gotta give it water. But then in order to give it enough food, you also gotta water the plants. So in total, this causes a chain reaction of so much water being dedicated just to grow the feed for animal agriculture. In fact, if you combine the total amount of water dedicated for creating meat, it will equate to 4,387 kilometers cubed of water, which is the equivalent of 1.75 billion swimming pools.
Whoa, that's a lot of water. But what does that number even mean?
Well, to help you conceptualize this, let's say you have a typical bacon cheeseburger. Compared to non-meat products, such as lettuce and tomato, which only consume 4.7 liters of water, the beef patty alone consumes 2,500 liters of water. Knowing that water scarcity is becoming more of a bigger issue, this is also unsustainable.
But if meat production consumes so much of our natural resources, then you might be wondering, why isn't anyone doing anything about it? Well, it is actually more difficult than you think it is. For me, when I first confronted my parents about not eating meat, they looked at me and genuinely thought I was going crazy. I mean, I wasn't surprised though, because many of my friends acted the same way. People made fun of me because they didn't think I was taking it seriously. This is because meat is so deeply integrated into our cultural diets that it is simply impossible to completely get rid of it. During the course of my pescatarian diet, I've realized that there isn't a single dish on the dinner table without meat in it. Even a veggie dish had some sprinkles of meat on it.
Yeah, I've also experienced this too. Whenever me and my family go out to eat dinner, even if I try to avoid meat dishes, my family members might order dishes with meat in them. And sometimes I end up eating their leftovers as I feel like it's better to eat the meat rather than to not waste it. Also, as an athlete, my parents are very concerned with the amount of protein that I'm eating. So if we only stick to plant-based food, are we able to get enough protein?
Well, believe it or not, a variety of plants are actually protein-rich, such as beans, lettuce, legumes, and tofu. And in addition to that, there are a bunch of other products, such as dairy products and nuts that are also protein-rich. So just remember that everything you need from meat, every protein, every vitamin, every nutrient, you can get from eating vegetables and grains. So here's the truth. Not eating meat is the single most important thing and most impactful thing an individual can do for the environment. So what are some things that you can do to make a difference?
Well, for starters, you can try some different diets. Like I do meatless Mondays, Wendi does pescatarian diet, but there's also other diets like flexitarian, vegetarian, and vegan. Also, if you don't want to completely eliminate meat from your diet, you can try swapping out different types of meat, like eating less red meat, such as beef, lamb, and pork, and eating more smaller animals like seafood and poultry, as red meat produces 4 times more greenhouse gas emissions than these other meat sources. Along with that, you should try some vegetarian food from time to time. Our school has some really good vegetarian food and with some really good enchiladas, pasta, pizza, curry, and the other day I had some really good udon. And you can also encourage your friends to try it, as it genuinely is really good, and you can also save the planet while you're doing so.
I totally agree. The udon yesterday was so delicious. And finally, spread the word. When you think of climate change, you think of fossil fuels, right? But what most people don't think of is meat production, which is also one of the major contributors. So by simply spreading the word and making more people aware of this issue, you're already doing our planet a huge favor. So indeed, the stakes are high. And the stakes are high because the cost of producing one steak is not worth the ecological and environmental consequences. So let us make a positive change towards the environment, one bite at a time.
Thank you.